almost run out of time, so we want to make sure we get started. This has been so much fun. We had 2 sessions on Tuesday, and who knew we could engage almost as much online virtually as we do in person. So, a quick introduction about how we decided to do this. So, in March, we typically do our spring SDI. But with everything that happened so quickly, we were like, you know what, let's push it back. Maybe we'll do it in the summer. Can you really do SDIs virtually and them have the same impact? And you know what, as the weeks went by, Dr. Browning and I started having conversations, and we said, you know what, if we want our employees to continue with business as usual, we need to continue as business, as normal. So we went ahead, we worked together, we put together a training and some great information on working remotely. And I'm going to tell you the feedback we have received from this training and Dr. Browning's work has been amazing. So just a couple little housekeeping pieces. If everyone can please mute their mics, it would be great if you haven't done so already. It just appears the more people that get on the call, the feedback gets louder and louder. And on Tuesday, we had a bit of an oops. We had a participant who accidentally hijacked the session by clicking on the share content option. So if you can make sure any of the options across the top of the screen, the file, edit, share, view, if you can please avoid touching any of those options. If you would like to use the chat box, that is an option at the bottom of your screen. You can hover over where your mic is silenced, and a little bit further, a couple, steps over is the chat box. And you can either select chatting to everyone, or you can do the drop-down list and chat to someone privately. So those are just a couple different housekeeping rules to avoid the session being hijacked today. It was quite comical. Poor Dr. Browning, he was like, I don't know what happened. My presentation's gone, my computer's it took us about 5 minutes to get back on track, but it was a total accident. The participant had to select share instead of chat. So it was kind of comical, and honestly, we sort of just we reconnected and moved on like nothing ever happened. Well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Browning, just because, like I said, we have a lot of material to cover. It's been fun. It's been great. And Dr. Browning, welcome.
Thank you, Alicia. Good morning, everyone. We're glad that you could join this session. I had to laugh as Alicia was talking, because truthfully, it's the boat that we're all in. We're learning new things, we're learning new technology, and things happen. And you just kind of roll with it and go with it. And I think that's what we're all facing right now, especially now that we're a couple of weeks and almost a month into this telecommuting that's new for us. I think what you'll find in this session is, well, first of all, most of you should have received the telecommuting guide that went out a couple of weeks ago. I think Dr. Harder attached it to one of her emails. First of all, if you didn't, it's located on our Center for Professional Development website. But we decided in this session to not really just duplicate that information, but to kind of bring it into buckets and kind of enhance that a little bit, to kind of really kind of take that information and build off of it and see where you as a team member kind of fit now. There's going to be some interaction in this session. So I would encourage you to go ahead and get your phones and your iPads ready. Go to slido.com, and I'll give you a code in a second. We'll start off with a couple of test questions just to make sure everybody's comfortable with everything. But through the session, we're going to have several polls and some interaction that's going to take place. And again, really kind of seeing where everyone kind of falls at this moment and how we as a team can get you additional resources and kind of bring us to that next level as we are in the middle of the telecommuting, but at some point we'll transition back to our environment at the SLCC campus. So from there, you'll notice that, let's see, sometimes there's a little delay in what I'm looking for, but you should now see on your screen that it's asking you to identify what role that you serve in. So this is one of the test questions to make sure everybody's comfortable. You could go into slido.com and use the code U501 and to indicate whether you're staff or faculty on the call.
For those of you that have an iPhone or a phone with a camera, you can also just turn your camera on and scan the QR code. That's a quick, easy way to get there too.
Perfect. Thank you, Alicia. Right. So far, it looks like we've got staff. Now we've got some faculty on board. Give everyone a few minutes. You'll also notice at the top, you'll see a number that's changing. That's the number of participants that's in the session. We understand some of you may or may not have the video or the additional capabilities. That's fine. We'll kind of walk you through some of the results that's popping up. Okay, looks like we got about 26 that are voting, and 92% of those are staff. 93. We've had a great mix over the last couple of sessions of both faculty and staff, so it's good to see. Cool. All right, so it looks like everybody's a little comfortable with that. So let's go on. If you can now identify your division. Are you in student services, academic affairs, corporate college, so forth and so on, okay? Right. Awesome. The majority so far looks like student services. Neat. Also, as we're going through the presentation, I would encourage you, if you have any questions, make sure you kind of jot those down or keep them in mind, because at the end of this, we do have a session very similar to this where you can type in your questions and we can answer them as well, so that everybody's seeing that. All right, so looks like the majority are in student services on this particular call. Good deal. All right, so you'll notice the title of the presentation is From Nudge to Shove, which is kind of how we entered this telecommuting phase of our time at SLCC. You know, what's unique about what we've experienced and what many people are experiencing, not just SLCC, but typically when you go to a telecommuting situation, there's a little ramp up time. There's time to say, okay, do you have the technology to work from home? Do you have all the necessary supplies and tools? What are the expectations? How will we communicate? How often will you come to the office? What will that look like? Will we use video calls? Will we use, what's going to take place? We really didn't have that luxury with the situation that we're in. And if you kind of look at the tracking from there, our nudge was like on March 12th, we got an email and communication that went out that, the travel was restricted, face-to-face meetings were suspended, just kind of nudging us in the direction that something was changing in our environment. Then on the 15th, we got another reminder that we were not to report to the campus on Monday, but we would be back on Tuesday, and students would probably be back on the Thursday, I believe it was, but we would be back on Tuesday and Wednesday. And the next day, it shuts down, and we were all telecommuting at this point, where no one was allowed on campus. So that was really kind of a shock for some folks, especially for individuals who've never been in a telecommuting experience or environment. For me, I'll be honest with you, it was not as big of a challenge. I spent a lot of my time on my previous job where my office would fit in my backpack. And sometimes I was working from an airport or a hotel lobby or a restaurant. But with the majority of the folks at SLCC, it was a totally new environment. And Alicia's going to talk a little bit about the success that we had in making that transition, how easily it went. But we also want to recognize that there was a lot of anxiety that was taking place. And there was it was all new, trying to figure out what was taking place, trying to figure out how this was going to impact me, trying to figure out what my job was going to look like in the future. So we wanted to address that early on, and that's why we got some of the guides together and some of the other information. In one word, I would like for you to now go in and kind of describe, we talked about what that looked like in the very beginning, what are you feeling this past month? What have you felt? Has it been, anxiety, difficulty? What if you could put in, you said, okay, overwhelmed, anxious, peace. Okay, cool. Overwhelmed. All right. Anxiety seems to be the forefront here. Chaos. All right. Unsettled, organized, busy, tiring. Right. Good, good. One day at a time. Yep, absolutely. Confused, adaptive, structured. Alicia, did you want to kind of speak to some of this for a second? I believe we had chatted about.
I just wanted to take a moment to point out so for those of you that don't really have never worked with a word cloud before, the bigger the word, the more times that word has been entered. So I just want to give everybody a moment to take a look at all of these words, because at some point during the last 3.5 weeks, we have gone through every single one of these emotions. If this word cloud alone doesn't explain that we are all in this together, we have all gone through this period of uneasiness and feeling unprepared and confused. But the fact that we've been flexible and that we've been able to transition is just amazing. So, just know you're not the only one that's ridden with anxiety. You are not alone being overwhelmed. We have all gone through every single one of these emotions. And for me, I think what this is this is where we've learned how to trust one another, and now we're honest about what the last 3.5 weeks have looked like. And for me, that is just important, because we want to know how you felt over the last 3.5 weeks. This SDI has really provided a touch point for our staff and faculty across the college in a way I didn't expect it to. The feedback and the emails that I'm getting, it was just like, hey, I really needed this touch point. I really needed to see that other people felt the same way as me. And I kind of feel a little bit better about this now. So, this word cloud sort of sums up everybody's last 3.5 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited. This has been a phenomenal session, a couple of sessions, and we still have one more to go. But just kind of let you guys know, as Alicia pointed out, it's that touch point, and to kind of realize and bring us back together that you're not in it alone. You're not isolated. There are other folks feeling the same thing you are feeling, and it's okay to communicate that and to reach out to us. This, I think, has been, Alicia said, one of the most attended SDI sessions that she's had in recent times. So again, I think anxiety, and to be honest with you, that's propped up as one of the primary words in all of our sessions. When I started putting this together, I found this quote out of this article that was just published a month ago, March 17th, that what we're going through right now, what you guys are going through right now, what we're all going through right now, is just an extreme test of our basic daily work routine. Things that we take for granted, things that are a given, things that are triggers to get us back into the work mode, are being tested right now. What I think we're going to come out of this with, toward the end of this, is the current crisis and beyond, of what is moving, how we're going to move forward from this once we transition back. What is our work environment really going to look like, and how are we going to approach that? And I'll get to this in a few minutes, but I think this period is going to be a transition time for just about everybody on this call and everybody at SLCC. It's going to be a time of increased skill sets and motivation, and just a whole new way of doing things, a whole new way of doing business, and a new culture for us. It's really, when it gets down to it, it's about ensuring the continuity during a contingency period without having any impact on what we're going through as an organization and as a college. And Alicia will touch base on that a little further on in some of the Q&A and some of the other sessions about how we didn't miss a beat on this. And although there are some areas that we still need to brush up on and kind of enhance, for the most part, we've hit the ground running and have really kind of maintained servicing our students and those that are most in need right now. Just kind of looking back over this transition, when you could think back to week one, and I've talked to folks both at SLCC and outside of our organization, and really other throughout the country, some of my connections that I chatted with, when folks were kind of forced to go to this telecommuting experience, most folks in that first week were feeling confused and like kind of in a fog and scrambling to figure out what this new normal was going to look like. As a whole, very few meetings took place as you're trying to course correct and now kind of figure out what's going on. How am I going to navigate all of this, especially if I have children now at home? That first week was really spent questioning, how is this going to work out? How can I do this? Will I be successful? And of course, if you notice, again, anxiety, that's the key, again, was in the word cloud, but anxiety over job security concerns, having this long-term financial impact, and is this the beginning of the end of my career? So there's a lot of things, a lot of emotions taking place that first week. And so what we'd kind of like to know from you right now is, during that first week, what was your biggest concern during that week? Was it the technology? Was it job security, the childcare, how the workflows were going to pan out? So take a few minutes. Okay, we got some folks already jumping on it. Good deals. Workflows. All right, technology. The other, I see that that's popped up in several sessions. Keep some of those thoughts in mind as we get to the Q&A or some of the things that you would like to discuss. Workflows still seem to be taking priority. Job security, financial impact, technology, about 19%. Look at childcare. Still seems to be the workflows and how that was going to pan out. Great. All right. Awesome. So hopefully from what you'll see from this is that you're not alone. Again, that's what we kind of re-emphasize throughout this session, is that we're truly all in it together. We're all feeling some of the same things, and that's okay. And we're going to give you some additional tips on that. Awesome. Okay, so typically the majority of folks in here, it seems like the workflows and how that was going to pan. Okay, so going into week 2 of that, folks started feeling like, okay, things are going to start taking shape. You're discovering a new routine that might work out, and routine is key to that. I want you guys to remember that as we progress through this presentation and this session. You're feeling a little more comfortable with the unknown. SLC, our leadership, really started to communicate a little bit more. And let me say this, that's not to say that they weren't in the first week. They were truly phenomenal in that first week. It was just they were trying to figure it out as well. Everybody was kind of thrust into this at the same time. So we got more guidance, a little more reassurance that it's okay to be patient with ourselves and with the teams, that things were going to take a hot minute to kind of to flow out. And we begin to develop comfort levels with the technologies and the processes, and new workflows were created. As we moved into week 3, then folks kind of really began to hit their stride during all of this, that there was back to a normal under this new normal, that whatever that looks like. People were beginning to understand that we're going to be working from home with pets in the background and kids in the view and phones ringing and working more in t-shirts, and the meetings began to get more regularly scheduled. They started to get more on the books. So although folks in that week 3 were still adjusting, a rhythm is beginning to take shape and a routine is beginning to happen. And we're beginning to adapt to what we're having to face in that new norm. Week 4, it really kind of began to level out as it's more like business as usual. Each team member, each employee, each segment of the university felt empowered to figure out how all of this is going to work and get creative and to maximize their workload and workflows. There were really, no set methods at this point as we're trying to put things into place and discover new ways of doing things, and understanding that there may be some still challenges ahead. But the big thing was creativity began to emerge during this process. And that's going to take us through the rest of this transition. At the end of the day, through all of that, I think what we realized, especially around that week 3, when routines started to emerge and getting that in line, was that the show has to go on. That the offices may be closed, but we still needed to ensure that it was business as usual as much as possible. That whether we wanted the situation or not, truthfully, whether we were comfortable with it or not, we're suddenly thrown into that position where we needed to remain productive, and still do. But it was also okay to acknowledge that there was an emotional struggle, and acknowledge that, as we adjust to these new workflows and technologies, that there may be a temporary decrease in output, but that our leadership understood that and were trying to get us the tools and the resources needed. During that, because a lot of that transition, some of the simplest things became much more difficult for us. You couldn't turn to that colleague, or as you're walking down the hall and start having a chat with one of your coworkers, say, "Oh yeah, I missed that email," or "I need to go back and look at it again," or I interpreted it differently. Those side conversations that we may have were no longer there, and that clarification. So that lack of environment to promote those work habits and those routines, we now had to reestablish in a different situation and environment, because now some of our favorite things are a distraction. Our family, our pets, the TV, and other fun stuff that we had around the house. So it's always adaptive during some of those periods of time and moving forward. But this is what I want to stress, that what I found tradition in a telecommuting environment, that there's significant growth for the majority of folks who go through this. Telecommuting results in fresh ideas, innovation, resilience, that, okay, we struggled with this, but we're going to come through on top because the show has to go on. And your skill sets are increasing during all of this. Your awareness of what's taking place, innovation to get things done. And one thing that I've gotten some feedback from several folks over the last couple of days. One thing that this telecommuting experience has done for especially the folks that are located at the Lafayette campus is it's broadened their perspectives, and said, they told me that it gave them a totally new view and respect for folks that are at our outlying locations. Not being in that central hub of information where some of the conversations are taken for granted, they now have a greater respect and understanding, and they've had to adjust some of their communication strategies because they're now more aware when they're communicating out to some of the outlying locations, that they get it now. They kind of putting some of those pieces together, which is great. It's increasing the awareness and the innovation and understanding more of your direct reports and more of your colleagues, and ensuring that communication strategies are in place. So I would want to ask you, as a whole, what skill sets would you say are most improved over this period? Is it your time management, active listening, critical thinking, communication, okay, technology? Thinking, technology, communication. Great. Time management, again, is critical. We'll talk some about that a little bit. Technology. And I'll be honest with you, that has run with this piece, that has run through consistent in all of our sessions. All right, critical thinking, communication seem to be neck and neck. Okay, good. But at the forefront, it looks like technology skills. Technology, I'm seeing a couple of things pop up in the chat box as far as technology. Awesome. Okay. As I wanted to jump now into some of the struggles with telecommuting. I found, again, a report, a 2020 State of Remote report, that these are the biggest buckets when they did their survey: that unplugging after work, loneliness, collaboration and communication, distractions at home, staying motivated. Some other things may have been put in there in that bucket, as well as finding reliable Wi-Fi. There was a small percentage, but these are some of the bigger buckets. And if you go back and you kind of look at that guide to telecommuting, a lot of those strategies, a lot of those things would address will fall into these. So as we kind of work through this, and we're going to come back to this in a few minutes, but the biggest thing, and I talked about routines, is the biggest thing that piece of advice that I can give you is, again, kind of working from telecommuting in the past and talking to other folks, maintain your routines. Routines that we have are triggers that really kind of say it's time to go to work. For many of us, it was that morning commute, getting in the car, making that drive. So, okay, I'm leaving that piece, home life behind, and now I'm transitioning to my work life. Now that that's gone, as we talked about, kind of having those side conversations, collaborating in the hallways, being able to step down the hall to your supervisor's office and ask for clarification, those are kind of gone. So we're missing those triggers. On the flip side of that, you now have additional triggers at home that may be a distraction to you. So as finding that balance and finding that routine that fits for you and your current situation, what I would say, as much as possible, try to keep the routine that you had prior to the telecommuting deployment to avoid slipping into some of those bad habits. Because remember, and that's why I highlighted this at the very first, the bullet point here, at some point, this season is going to end and we're going to need to transition back to our normal SLC environment. So make sure that you're not establishing bad habits. Make sure that you're not getting in a routine that may hinder you when you go back and when we transition back. So as much as possible, stay in that in some sort of a routine. Again, we get now that things have changed. That's going to alter a little bit, but as much as possible, get up at the same time, get out of your pajamas, take a shower, get dressed and settle in for work. Those are all kind of triggers that will send you into that work mode and where you're your most productive. I still tend to get up at the same time, get dressed. I'm not going to say I put on a shirt and tie and a jacket, but one thing that I have found helpful in this is that I have the SLC polo, the SLC t-shirt. I put that on as my attire. It's kind of a trigger that says, okay, now I'm in the SLCC mode. I'm kind of working on this. It may be have a coffee mug there from SLCC, something that kind of triggers you to get in that work mode. Because again, without that morning commute, it's easy to sleep in late and a tougher time getting started. So again, keep your routine as much as possible. Keep a lot of the same meetings that you've had on the books from before, but maybe shift those to video call to maintain that connectivity and accountability. Start the same time every day. Start to become more visible in emails and participation in meetings and different tools to become part of the team and to maintain that connectivity. New routines, make sure, again, kind of making sure that you're not getting in those habits that's going to get you in a rut and lose some of your productivity. I got a couple of things, some studies out there say, well, 21 days takes to form a habit. Others are a little longer. I kind of found something here in the middle of about 66 days for a new behavior to become an automatic in us. So we are roughly about 24 work days into the telecommuting environment. So that gives you about 24 work days to possibly have established some things and gotten into some routines that may not be beneficial when we try to transition back. If we're on track by the end of April, which who knows, my guess is we might be pushed a little bit beyond that. But if so, that's another 13 days, additional 34 days if we go to the end of May. My point being is that at the end of this, there's about 37 to 58 work days in total. Just make sure of that 66. So just make sure that we're being aware of any bad habits or any things that may interfere with our productivity. Although it might be cool right now, to sleep till 7:30 and then jump on your computer at 8, it may not be beneficial to you when we start to return and transition back. So just take one day at a time, as somebody mentioned in the word cloud, but begin to kind of, if you are in this where you've got some habits established, now is the time to kind of maybe start addressing those and kind of cleaning those up just a little bit. Again, kind of get your workspace right. Make sure that your workplace is in order. Probably sitting on the couch or working from bed, you're not going to be the most productive. We get that now, a lot of times you have kids or at home and and you may have to set up where they're visible to you and you're in line with them. You may be now working remotely with a roommate or a spouse or someone that you're having to tend to. We get that, but try as much as possible to set aside a dedicated space. We understand you now have new coworkers, but make sure that it's established and that you have some boundaries set. This also gives you the ability to get up and walk away. That, even if it's a folding table in your living room, that you can walk away, and that disconnect, as we talked about unplugging from work, will be much greater, even if you're just taking a few steps away, but shutting it down and moving away. But make sure you have a dedicated workspace that's right for you. Equally as important is get up and move around. Again, there are triggers that when we're on the campus, such as walking across the building to a meeting or leaving for lunch, meeting another colleague. These don't exist anymore. So we now have to find a way to keep our work routine a little bit intact. You can't think that you're going to sit there for 24/7 in front of that computer. Get up, walk around, but don't feel guilty about it. If you need to go put some clothes in the dryer, put some clothes in the dryer. Don't feel guilty about it. Go start lunch or start prepping for dinner. Whatever that looks like for you, take advantage of it. Go walk around the yard. Just take a few minutes for you and kind of realize what your schedule is and schedule some time to go with the ebbs and flow of the day. Things are going to come, things are going to go. Know when you're most productive and work around that. For example, I want to show you, this is now my working space. I've got a folding table in the middle of the dining room. My new coworker is my dog that has a bed next to my desk. My husband's in the other room in his office, and the dog floats back and forth between us. We're on different conference calls. And top it all off, I'm in the middle of a major renovation with my house right now. So there's possibility you may hear bulldozers in the background or construction going on. It's okay. And I think that's the point. Earlier on, we were talking about that the leadership began to convey those messages that we're all in a new norm, and wherever we're at is fine. Just make sure you're communicating some of your needs with your directors and those that your supervisors. Loneliness is probably one of the most reported problems or concerns through this experience. And the whole thing and that's as a whole with any telecommuting experience, but COVID-19 and magnifies the issue by additional restrictions. The thing to keep in mind, and this is why it's, this piece I want to talk to, especially the directors and some of the supervisors that have some direct reports. Keep in mind that each of your employees and truthfully any of our colleagues are experiencing a different kind of loneliness right now. You've got some single employees that, whether they're new to the area or not, they're feeling, they're single in the house by themselves. They're feeling lonely, claustrophobic because they can't get out and go to some of these things that they're accustomed to. You've now got single employees that have kids that they're craving other adults and needing some connection other than that. Alicia was talking on the call earlier, saying that she'll walk out and talk to her family that's there working with her. Can you believe such and such happened? And that and the other. And they're looking at her like, and I don't get it. I don't connect with you. So realize that that's a different type of loneliness. Even though you may have some folks there in your home, they need to be able to vent and be able to talk on a different level. And so just remember that you've got employees out there that are feeling lonely for a variety of reasons. And I think it's imperative that we kind of realize that when we have our one-on-ones and we have some discussions of just taking a moment to say, okay, what do you need? How are things going? What can I do for you? That may not have anything to do with work, may not be a work project, but just check in on folks and make sure that everybody's okay through this. Another thing is, again, have some peer one-on-ones with your colleagues. Use video calls as much as possible to share some of those challenges. And as I said, and make extra time in your one-on-one to address some of these issues. And to the employees, and our staff and our faculty and just about everyone, don't wait until your back is against the wall facing some of these challenges before you ask. because you're going to get to a point that it's going to be very frustrating. You're going to go from a point of loneliness and isolation, kind of figuring out where this is, to then frustration boils up. So make sure that you're not getting your back against the wall. Your supervisors, your directors, your colleagues, we all want to be there for you. We want to be able to get you through this. So just make sure that there are some resources available. The other thing is folks tend to overcompensate to appear productive. You know, that they feel pressured in the telecommuting environment to make sure that everybody knows that they're working. Reality, this leads to overworking and burnout and frustration. Stay connected, be able to communicate, but don't assume that you have to be available 24/7 and glued to that computer. Again, we're experiencing a whole new environment right now, and we need to be aware of that as leaders. So just be able to disconnect and understand that it's okay if you have to step away for a moment. You know, when we first started this, I remember that it was probably around 4:30-ish, maybe 4:20 one afternoon, and I'd been working pretty steady all day. Husband finished his conference calls and came in and said, let's go for a walk. It's a beautiful day. Took a walk, and I got back, and sure enough, there was like 2 emails from my boss, my director, asking me certain questions that came in around 10 minutes to 5. And I was like, man, the one time I step away, he's going to reach out for something. And I immediately got back with him, and he's like, look, it's cool. It's fine. We're in an environment. We understand that. So again, don't feel guilty about stepping away, taking some of those breaks, and don't burn yourself out feeling like you've got to be there stuck on this computer. So going back to that original survey and that article, what's your biggest struggle with telecommuting right now? Is it the unplugging? Is it loneliness? Is it the collaboration aspect of it? Different distractions from home? Staying motivated? Okay, unplugging. Some loneliness, isolation. Okay, staying motivated, it's popped up on a couple. Collaboration. Still being able to unplug seems to be the, okay. Cool. So again, unplugging after work seems to be a huge thread through all of these trainings. So that's something that we're definitely going to address afterwards and try to get you some additional resources and some assistance on that, some tips. Good. Okay, isolation, again, collaboration. I'm not seeing technology pop up, which is good, because it seems like that when you mentioned earlier your skills have increased, that's evident here. Okay. Good deal. Great. So unplugging seems to be about 40% of you guys. The other thing, kind of still stemming off of that a little bit, is realize that there is a work from home anxiety and paranoia. You know, anxiety occurs when we're in that survival mode and where everything that we do right now is being impacted, where we're not experiencing this, benefiting from some of the same experiences and interactions we do on a typical day. So that is something that's to be expected. And I think that's really going to kind of peak in those first couple of weeks, as far as there was that survival mode, because everything's unsettling right now. And it's okay to feel that. But just recognize that there are some challenges with that, and reach out if you need some assistance. But from early on, some of those polls that you gave, it seems like we're kind of working through some of this. See, also again, COVID-19, we're navigating through it. Don't freak out if your manager hasn't reached out all week and haven't talked to them. It's like, don't immediately say, okay, am I getting fired? Am I not doing the job that I'm doing? You know, what's going on? Because this anxiety can impact both your personal and professional life. You know, there are going to be periods of time where you don't necessarily hear from your manager or director. Don't freak out. Again, ask, go back to them and say, what is the desired communication strategies? How often do we talk? What do you prefer? Video, email, text, calls? Just again, kind of communicate and keep in touch with those folks. So right now, we talked about earlier on what you were at the beginning, what some of those challenges were in week 1, what you were feeling. So what is your current level regarding telecommuting and anxiety? Are you still freaking out a little bit? Have you only just recently started to relax? Are you comfortable with it, or are you like totally cool with the new norm? Okay. So settling into a routine, comfortable but spikes. Okay. Settling into a routine, more positive than negative. All right. 50%. Cool. Spikes the longer this goes on. We got a couple that's still freaking out. That's fine. Just make sure that you reach out to us, touch base with us or your supervisors, directors, those in leadership to see what you need, what you still have those honest conversations about what you're freaking out about. See somebody who's just recently started to relax. That's great. Okay. So it seems like most folks have settled in some type of routine with more positive things, which is really kind of what we want to see and what we see trending through all of these sessions. Awesome. So just to recap, tips for thriving, some of the stuff that we went through, not just surviving, stick to a routine. Your routine is something that that routine is something you do have control over. Stay connected, stay in touch with loved ones, schedule conference calls, stay in touch with colleagues. It's important to take time for yourself. So also just stay healthy, eat as healthy as possible. Make time for yourself, make time to unwind, do things that you enjoy, go outside for a walk. And again, ask for help. If you're feeling overwhelmed, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for help if you need it. Remember, I think you've seen through this session, you're not alone in some of these feelings. Communicate more than anything. Re-clarify, how the information is needed and what's taking place with your manager and your team. I would encourage you to never cancel team meetings or one-on-ones. You may need to reschedule them, that's happened even when we were on campus, but try never to just cancel them. If nothing else, if you have nothing new to report with those folks, schedule a time just to turn into a support opportunity. And anticipate some technical issues and plan accordingly. It's going to happen, trust me. Also, if you go to our Center for Professional Development website, again, the telecommuting guide is out there. I went and I pulled a lot of the user guides for Zoom and BlueJeans and WebEx now that we're all using that. Some of these tools, I put the self-starting guides out there, maybe be a quick reference for you guys. If you have any additional resources that has helped you through this transition, YouTube videos, documents, articles, anything that you find helpful, please make sure that you send it to me so that we can put it on our website. I did see a question pop up. If you go about where is the Center for Professional Development, if you go to the SLCC main page, if you look up at the very top, there's a tab that says Faculty and Staff. And if you click on that tab, it takes you, that's the Center for Professional Development. And there should be a bucket in there for telecommuting, as well as some of the other resources that we have. The end of the day, again, we understand things are not going to be perfect, but strive for excellence. Stick to what you can what you can control. Take some time to celebrate what you did well, even if you didn't get the outcome you hoped for. Identify what needs to get done and create a structured routine and allow for those adjustments. Have realistic expectations, understanding that we're all working in a new environment right now, and just reach out and communicate. All of these things, if you stick to these, they're going to get you to that point of excellence. Again, none of us going to meet perfection in this time, but we can still maintain everyday excellence. And with this, I'm going to toss it back to Alicia.
I just really wanted to take a few minutes and sort of tie this all together. You guys, not everyone on this particular training was privy to some of the executive and leadership calls in the very beginning of this transition. And I just want to tell you how much we have to be proud of. Whenever we're sitting here and we're having these leadership calls and you hear things like SLCC transitioned in 2 to 3 days when some of our sister colleges took 7 to 10 or 15 business days, we were ahead of the game. And for me, I just don't think that was an accident. At SLCC, we've really focused on standards and expectations and everyday excellence culture, that there was no hesitation. There was no red tape. our faculty transitioned, I think the number is over 90% of our courses online in 2 to 3 business days. Kudos to them. We have folks teaching online who have never taught online, and they are killing it. Same thing, senior leadership, supervisors. You provided guidance, you helped calm your employees. And for our staff members, you were flexible, you rolled with the punches, you did what you were asked. And all of that says you believe in us, you trust us. And for me, that means a lot, because we would not have been able to get where we were as quickly as we did if we weren't all in this together. I mean, I can't tell you how many instances of collaboration and service that have come to my attention. And so because of that, I asked Kevin to put a slide into the presentation where I want you to think about our values, you know, and what those mean to you. And if you can, share something that maybe you've been privy to, or maybe it was a direct experience you had with a colleague or a department where you saw someone living those values. And I just think this is a great time to say thank you and acknowledge folks. So if you can just use this slide and begin typing in some areas where you would like to recognize folks. IT has been vital in this transition. Kudos to their staff. Absolutely. I can't tell you the countless stories that I've heard about IT staff staying on the phone for hours. I've received private messages about specific staff members, Nick, Brad, Chad, Tori, Josh. It's just been unbelievable, the stories that we've heard. Communications between different departments when students have questions. I think the amount of collaboration has increased more than we ever thought. Now we are forced to communicate in a way that we probably didn't realize. Corey from IT has been a lifesaver. Thanks to IT. Rebecca Eckhoff's done a great job keeping her adjunct faculty engaged. John Wright has been great about staying in touch. You know, I'm going to elaborate on that just a little, because Dr. Wright really had an awesome idea. So very early into this process, we were on a senior leadership call, and he was talking about he wanted a way to be able to reach out to his staff that really wasn't work related. It was just, I want to check on folks and give those people the opportunity who want to visit and chat, the opportunity to visit and chat. So in Microsoft Teams, he invited people to a water cooler meeting, and it was show up with your favorite drink and snack. And, you know, they just chit chatted for 30 or 45 minutes. And so I love that so much, I stole it. And now we have different, so our Amanda Link, our HR, yes, the HR water cooler chat. So we have our own water cooler chats now, and it's fun because it's not work related, but it's that type of interaction and engagement that people have lost, that they're sort of getting back just in a different capacity. So those are the kinds of things I think Dr. Browning is referring to when he says, you know, people are lonely. People need us, and not just in the supervisor colleague capacity. Think about all the people that are missing out on, you're their only adult interaction, or you're their only person that they can bounce things off of. And it's 3.5 weeks now, and they haven't been able to do that. So for me, this has really opened my eyes into how much compassion people have. These comments are phenomenal. Just know that, you know, the session's being recorded. We can export all of this data And everybody that has been recognized in these comments will get a kudos. So thank you so much for taking some time to do that. We usually like to leave a couple minutes for questions in case anybody has any, and we're going to cross our fingers that this slide works because it hasn't been working, but that's okay. We have a backup plan if it doesn't. Okay, so questions for either Dr. Browning or myself, or just some general tips or things that have worked for you. You have the opportunity to share that with us as well. I don't know if it's working or no one has questions. Oh, there we go. So we know it's working. Well, I think there's a lot to be said how this will affect future college operations. Do I believe that things will change? Yes. Do we have what that means right now? No. It's not a secret that with all of this change, some things are going to stay and remain, and some things will transition back to normal. I think once we begin normal business operations, we'll be able to, I guess, more likely see how this has impacted and shaped our college. But do I believe that then some things will change? Yes, absolutely. And here's the great news. We adapted so well transitioning into this. That tells me that we can transition into anything. Well, all right. I guess nobody has any questions. But, if there's something that comes up after the presentation, please don't hesitate. Reach out to me or Dr. Browning. We'd be more than happy to have additional conversation. But if you take away anything from this presentation, reach out. And I'm not telling you to over communicate to the point where you're aggravating your staff or your colleagues, but check on people, because some people are not okay, and not okay in just they need someone to talk to. So if there's a colleague out there that you haven't heard from in the last week and a half, go ahead, take the initiative, reach out to them. And it looks like you guys are going to get about 5 minutes of your day back. So you have a great morning. And again, let us know if there's anything you need. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Adios, amigos.